Okay, so is UPS stock a buy right now?
Hmm. That's the question, isn't it?
Well, we've got this Motley Fool article,
Uh-oh.
and they really dig into it.
Okay.
They look at the positives and the negatives.
Right.
So it's not like a simple yes or no.
It's not a central answer.
It's kind of like a Wall Street detective story.
Yeah.
And we're going to try and piece together all the clues to try to figure out,
I like that.
what is really going on.
Yeah, and I think what's fascinating here is that UPS has been making some, pretty big moves lately, like this whole thing about shifting away from Amazon deliveries.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not something you see every day.
Right.
So we need to figure out, is this like a sign of weakness or is this like a brilliant strategy?
Yeah. So to kind of set the stage here,
Okay.
let's start with the bear case.
That.
The reasons why some investors might be hitting the brakes on UPS.
Yeah, I think one of the things that kind of jumps out is that they haven't been, spot on with their market predictions.
Oh.
I mean, they overestimated the U.S. small package delivery market like 2 years in a row.
Oh.
And that, that raises some questions about, their ability to kind of accurately anticipate future trends.
Yeah, that's never a good sign.
No.
And then there was that whole labor dispute back in 2023.
Oh, yeah.
Which really drove up costs and probably made some customers pretty nervous.
Yeah.
And not to mention that they also missed their own financial targets for 2024,
Uh-huh.
both for revenue and operating income.
Right. And just to clarify for our listeners,
Yeah.
operating income is essentially the profit that a company makes from its core operations, before you factor in things like taxes and interest.
Okay.
So when a company misses its operating income projections, it can kind of signal some potential problems with their efficiency or profitability.
Interesting. So, not hitting those targets combined with the labor dispute,
Yeah.
it starts to paint a picture of maybe some internal challenge.
Some headwinds.
Right. And then, of course, there's the elephant in the room,
Uh-huh.
which is this decision to drastically reduce the volume of Amazon deliveries.
Right.
Amazon made up almost 12% of their revenue in 2024.
Wow.
And they're aiming to cut that in half by 2026.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, some analysts see this as kind of a risky move, right?
Mm-hmm.
Distancing yourself from this giant, Amazon just seems counterintuitive.
Right.
But then you have others who believe that this is a sign that UPS is really serious
Yeah.
about shifting their focus from volume to profitability.
So it's kind of like they're saying we'd rather deliver fewer packages,
Yeah.
but make more money on each one.
Exactly.
But is that a sustainable strategy in the long run?
That is the question.
That's what we need to figure out.
Yeah, and to understand that, we need to look at, where UPS is planning to make up for this potential revenue loss.
Okay.
And that brings us to the bull case.
Okay.
The reasons why some investors are still betting on UPS.
So what are the silver linings here?
What are the bulls excited about?
Yeah, what are the bulls excited about?
Well, one argument is that the current overcapacity in the delivery market, where there's kind of more supply than demand,
Right.
is temporary.
Okay.
As the economy recovers,
Mm-hmm.
the bulls believe that demand will bounce back
Okay.
and that UPS will be in a prime position to benefit.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But even if the market improves, can UPS really make up for that revenue that they'd be losing from Amazon?
Well, that's where their targeted growth strategy comes in. They're making, big moves to expand into areas like healthcare and small and medium-sized businesses, or SMBs,
Okay.
which basically refers to companies that are, smaller than large corporations.
Right. I remember reading about that in the article.
Yeah.
They're aiming to double their healthcare revenue by 2026.
That's right.
But can they really achieve that given how competitive the healthcare logistics market is?
It's certainly ambitious,
Yeah.
but they're focusing on, specific niches within healthcare,
Uh-huh.
like pharmaceutical deliveries and medical device logistics,
Okay.
where their existing network and expertise kind of give them a potential edge.
So they're not just jumping into healthcare blindly.
Right.
They're strategically targeting areas where they have a good chance of success.
Exactly.
That makes me think about their Network of the Future initiative.
Yes.
They're investing heavily in things like automation and smart facilities, right?
Yeah, exactly. And this is where we need to get a little more technical.
Okay.
They're implementing things like AI-powered routing systems that optimize delivery routes in real time,
Wow.
and automated sorting facilities that can process packages with incredible speed and accuracy.
So they're not just talking about innovation. They're
Right.
actually putting it into practice.
And the timing of this is crucial.
Yeah, okay.
They're using this period of restructuring, as they move away from Amazon to like overhaul their entire network.
Wow.
And make it as efficient and cost-effective as possible.
So while some people see the Amazon move as a risk, others see it as an opportunity for UPS to kind of like reinvent themselves and become even stronger in the long run.
Precisely, and that's why this is such a complex and intriguing case.
Yeah.
It's not just about looking at the numbers. It's about understanding the strategy behind those numbers.
Right.
And anticipating how those strategic decisions might play out in the future.
This is where I think things get really interesting.
Yeah.
We've got the bear case market uncertainty, internal challenges, and the potential risk of losing Amazon.
Right.
And then we've got the bull case, a rebounding economy, strategic expansion into new markets, and this commitment to cutting-edge technology. Yeah. So who's right?
It's hard to say.
What does it all mean for someone who's considering investing in UPS stock?
That is the question.
I guess that's the question we're trying to answer here.
And to help us answer that question, I think we need to delve into what the Motley Fool analyst ultimately recommends. Do they lean towards the bull case, or do they share the bear's concerns?
Well, let's find out.
Okay.
We'll be right back after a quick break. So we've got the bull and bear cases for UPS, and it's clear there's a lot to consider.
Right, a lot of moving parts.
But before we make any judgments, let's hear what the Motley Fool analyst has to say.
All right, well, the analyst ultimately gives UPS a cautious buy recommendation.
Okay.
They acknowledge that the company is, facing some real headwinds. But they believe that the long-term potential outweighs the risks.
That's interesting. So they're not like blindly bullish.
No, not.
They're taking a more measured approach.
A cautious approach.
It sounds like they're really weighing the potential upside against the potential downside.
Yeah, they're saying, look, there's a chance this could really work out. But there are some things that we need to keep an eye on.
And what are some of those things?
Well, they're particularly interested in seeing how UPS executes, this strategic shift away from Amazon. If they can successfully reduce their reliance on Amazon while simultaneously growing their presence in healthcare and the SMB market,
right?
The analyst believes that UPS could be, a very attractive investment.
That's a big if, right?
Absolutely.
There's no guarantee that they'll be able to pull it off.
No, there are always risks involved in any investment.
Right.
UPS is no exception. The analyst highlights a few key things to watch for.
Okay, like what?
Like how effectively UPS manages its costs,
okay,
how well they navigate this, competitive landscape, and whether they can continue to innovate and adapt to the changing demands of the market.
It's almost like they're walking a tightrope.
Yeah, it's balancing act.
You've got to balance all these different priorities.
Right.
And execute their plan flawlessly if they want to succeed.
They've got a lot on their plate.
This actually reminds me of something.
Yeah.
Remember a few years back when, let's say, Company X was in a similar situation?
I think I remember that.
They were facing declining revenues.
Yeah.
They made some pretty bold strategic decisions.
And
a lot of people were skeptical.
Right.
But in the end, they managed to turn things around and became even stronger than before.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
It highlights the fact that companies, can and do evolve.
Right.
And sometimes what looks like a risky move in the short term can actually be a brilliant strategy for long-term growth.
It's all about the long game.
Exactly.
And it's not just about the company's internal decisions either.
Right.
It's also about like the external factors that are at play.
The macroeconomic environment?
Exactly. For example, if the economy takes a downturn, that could obviously impact UPS's business.
For sure.
Regardless of how well they execute their strategy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's why it's so important to consider, the macroeconomic environment when making any investment decisions.
Right.
Things like interest rates, inflation, consumer confidence, all of those things can have a significant impact on a company's performance.
Okay, so we've got the analyst's take, which is cautiously optimistic.
Cautious optimism.
We've talked about the key risks and opportunities. But let's step back for a second and think about this from the perspective of our listener.
Okay.
So you're listening to this deep dive.
Yeah.
You're learning about UPS and its current situation.
Right.
And you're probably wondering, what does this all mean for me?
$1 million question.
Should I buy UPS stock, sell it, or hold on to it if I already own it?
Yeah. That's the question, isn't it?
And unfortunately, there's no easy answer.
Investing is a personal decision.
Right.
It depends on, a variety of factors, like your risk tolerance,
Okay.
your investment goals,
Yeah.
your overall financial situation.
So what we've done here is kind of provide you with the information and analysis you need to make an informed decision.
The tools you need.
We've unpacked the bull case, the bear case, and the analyst's perspective. Now it's up to you to weigh those factors and decide what makes sense for you.
And it's an ongoing process, too.
What do you mean?
Well, even if you decide to buy UPS stock today, that doesn't mean you should just forget about it and hope for the best.
Right.
You need to kind of keep an eye on the company's performance.
Okay.
Pay attention to industry trends and be prepared to make changes if the situation warrants it.
So stay informed.
Exactly.
And that brings us to a really interesting question that we haven't touched on yet.
What's that?
UPS's decision to reduce its reliance on Amazon.
Right.
That's a pretty significant move.
It is.
And it raises some broader questions about the future of e-commerce and delivery networks.
You're right. If a company like UPS, which is practically synonymous with package delivery, is moving away from one of the biggest players in e-commerce, what does that tell us about the direction the industry is heading in?
Yeah, it's like, are we moving from this idea of a few massive companies controlling everything to a more diverse landscape with like specialized players catering to specific needs?
Exactly. Think about it. What if instead of relying on one giant company for all your shipping needs, you could choose from a range of options.
Okay.
Depending on what you're sending, where it's going, how fast it needs to get there.
Okay.
Maybe you need a company that specializes in, fragile medical equipment.
Yeah.
Or one that's like hyper-focused on local same-day deliveries.
It's almost like the evolution of retail itself.
Interesting.
We went from general stores to department stores, then big box retailers.
Right.
And now we have everything from niche boutiques to online marketplaces.
It's true.
Maybe delivery networks are going through a similar transformation.
It's possible. And you know what? This could actually be a good thing for consumers.
How so?
Well, more competition often leads to better prices.
Okay.
More innovation. A wider range of choices.
I see what you mean. It's like how the rise of ride-sharing apps disrupted the traditional taxi industry and ultimately gave consumers more options and often lower fares.
Exactly.
Maybe we're seeing the same thing happen with delivery services.
And UPS seems to be recognizing this by investing in their network of the future. It's not just about efficiency.
Right.
It's about building the flexibility and adaptability they'll need to compete in this more, dynamic market.
So going back to our original question.
Okay.
Is UPS stock a buy? It seems like the answer is it depends.
It does depend.
It depends on how well they execute this transition, how the broader e-commerce landscape evolves, and, of course, your individual investment goals and risk tolerance.
Those are all key factors.
Exactly. There's no crystal ball.
No.
But what we've done here is given you the tools to start thinking critically about UPS and its future prospects.
We've given you the information you need to make an informed decision.
And I think that's the most important takeaway from any deep dive.
What's that?
It's not about finding the right answer. It's about equipping yourself with the knowledge and insights to make informed decisions.
And remember, the world of investing is constantly evolving.
Right.
So stay curious, stay informed, and most importantly, stay engaged.
So as you continue your research and consider your investment options, here's a final thought to ponder.
I like it.
What other industries might be on the cusp of a similar transformation?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Where else might we see this shift towards more specialization and a more diverse range of choices?
That's a great question to leave our listeners with.
Keep your eyes open, stay curious, and as always, happy diving. It's funny, we started this whole deep dive talking about delivery trucks and financial statements. But this has really got me thinking about like the whole future of e-commerce.
It really is fascinating how these things connect, isn't it? Like sometimes the most, specific details can lead to like the biggest aha moments.
Right.
And, what's striking to me is that this whole thing with UPS and Amazon, this could be like a signal of a much larger trend.
Like we're moving away from this idea of just a few massive companies controlling everything.
A handful of giants.
Right. And we're moving toward like a more diverse landscape with all these like specialized players.
Right. More niche players.
Catering to specific needs.
Exactly. Think about it.
Okay.
Instead of relying on, one giant company for all your shipping needs, you could choose from like a whole range of options.
Okay.
Depending on what you're sending, where it's going, how fast it needs to get there.
Wow.
Like maybe you need a company that specializes in fragile medical equipment,
right.
or one that's like hyper-focused on those local same-day deliveries.
It's almost like the evolution of retail itself.
Oh, interesting.
We went from general stores to department stores.
Right, yeah.
Then to those big box retailers. Oh. And now we've got everything from like niche boutiques to those online marketplaces.
Yeah, it's true.
Maybe delivery networks are going through a similar transformation.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting parallel.
And this could actually be a good thing for consumers.
How so?
Well, I mean, more competition often leads to better prices, more innovation.
Right.
A wider range of choices.
It's like the whole thing with ride-sharing apps.
Yeah.
Like how they disrupted the traditional taxi industry and ultimately gave consumers more options.
Yeah.
And often, lower fares.
Maybe we're seeing the same thing happen with delivery services.
And, UPS seems to be recognizing this by investing in their network of the future.
Right.
It's not just about efficiency. It's about building that flexibility and adaptability that they'll need to compete in this more, dynamic market.
So going back to our original question, is UPS stock a buy?
The million-dollar question.
It seems like the answer is it depends.
Yeah, it's not a simple yes or no.
Yeah. It depends on how well they execute this transition. How the broader e-commerce landscape evolves.
Right. Those are big factors.
And of course, your individual investment goals and your risk tolerance.
Your personal circumstances.
Exactly. There's no crystal ball here.
No, but we don't need a crystal ball.
We've given you the tools to start thinking critically about UPS and its future prospects.
We've laid out the facts, the analysis.
And I think that's the most important takeaway from any of these deep dives.
What's that?
It's not about finding the right answer. It's about equipping yourself with the knowledge and insights you need to make informed decisions.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So as you continue your own research and consider your investment options, here's a final thought to ponder.
Okay, I like it.
What other industries might be on the cusp of a similar transformation?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Where else might we see this shift towards more specialization and a more diverse range of choices?
That's something to think about.
Keep your eyes open, stay curious, and as always, happy diving.